Welcome back everybody. Today we'll be sculpting a troll head. Okay, for this sculpt I actually started off with a polysphere like I usually do. I didn't have any reference to go by, which is something I am going to try to do more of because I feel like if you have reference to sculpt by, you can really track your progression and see if you're getting closer and closer to matching that reference as opposed to just sculpting or sketching anything. It is good practice, but you never get better at achieving a likeness, I would say. So for this sculpt, I actually got the idea of a troll relatively early on when I moved the nose out, just because it seemed like I don't know, just troll popped in my head. But other than that, I just kind of, usually start off with how I start off with moving or defining the eye sockets and a couple of the bones and the planes of the head. Okay, so for most of the sculpt I used the same brushes that I usually do, the clay tubes brush, with just a low Z intensity. Here I did the ears by just masking off an ear shape, starting off from the top of the eyebrows to the bottom of the nose, and just pulled it out using the move brush from the back. For this sculpt I actually tried to do something different. I tried to stay in a low poly, well, low-ish, it's still pretty high, it's like a couple thousand, but stay as a low resolution and then define all the shapes. I actually do something I've never done before, which is insert like edge loops and stuff. I'll talk more about that when I get to it, when I actually do that for the mouth, which I think it turned out really well. But here I'm just trying to define proportions and stuff and try to just give him a hunchback because I wanted to be like a troll, and when I think troll I think of like hunched over with like a big nose and kind of looking humanoid. I'm just defining the bridge of the nose and trying to create the nose because I think it's an important part. Actually, I spent a lot of time here like working on just the muscles of the upper body, but at the end I decided it doesn't look right and it's kind of not what I'm trying to go for right now, so I actually hide it all and then just delete it afterward. Here I'm trying to just add in the lips to give it some volume and give it a chin. I decided to just not to try that approach and just go back and dynamesh it all. So smooth it out so I could try to sculpt it in better. I'm just using the trim dynamic brush, or sorry, the crease tool. I'm just kind of drawing, give myself some landmarks. Here I actually masked out the front part of the skull, which is like the cheekbone and the whole eye sockets, and just extrude them a little bit to give more of a Neanderthal kind of look to it. Here I'm trying to give a nice fullness to the lips. I found out in this sculpt that when I look at my other sculpts, I see that the lips do kind of resemble lips, but they don't have that fullness, and I think that is because I usually sculpt them as one part and not two separate parts and then push them together like real lips are. So for here I'm going to try to add geometry inside of it and then actually end up adding teeth to it, but I'll bring them back down. This really, I feel, gives a fullness to them and makes them seem more like two pieces of thick flesh, because the lips are pretty thick. I'm just trying to, again, just using a lot of the move brush, trying to pull out things and see how I want the overall look to be. For the sculpt, I'd say I only really use about 3 brushes, and that's the move brush, the clay tubes brush, and all those, the intensity, and then the trim dynamic brush to just like give some planes. And I'm just working on the sternocleidomastoid muscle, just trying to to build it in. Here's when I actually I hide all the geometry except for the lips, and then just edge sweep it once or twice, and then smoothing it out. And this is what I was talking about by making 2 separate left pieces, and then using the inflate brush to push them out a little bit. I also thought that this helped with the character to make him seem not as intelligent as you would associate with being a troll. I always wonder when they're always like the troll gives you riddles. It's like, trolls are usually stupid. Where did you learn this riddle from? You know, I don't know. That doesn't matter. And we just keep defining the head and move the proportions of the ears a little bit, trying to distinguish the cheekbones. I actually end up losing the expression he has now, which is like a sad kind of look, like he's dumbfounded or something. At the end, I feel that it's something I missed, which I would whenever I sculpt something, I tend to like it more halfway through than I do at the end. And I think that's just lack of practice, so I'll try to work on that. What I just did there is I quickly masked off the bottom part of the mandible and then just moved the lips down with the whole jaw, and then just smoothed out the neck to give it more of an open look, you know, because that's where it would bend. Here I'm just using a polysphere to quickly dynamesh it and then create the gums of the teeth. And I'm going to do the exact same for the actual teeth itself. I tried doing the way where you extract it from the actual mesh itself, but I just didn't have the time, and I felt like this would turn out better anyway, because I could position them all separately, and then I could end up making each of them have different poly groups. Because later they're all different subtools right now, but later I combine them all together as one subtool, the top gums in the teeth and the bottom gums in the teeth. But because I all made them different poly groups, I can hide individual ones and move them without affecting the others, which I really think turned out well, because I was able to later make them more skewed and give it more of a trollish look to them, I'd say. I don't know, just like a monsterish look. Using a lot of the trim dynamic brush here to give it the teeth a nice hard look to them, with hard edges, and I don't want them to look like they're jelly beans. Yeah. I find it best to switch between the different subtools and work on them as a whole, because if you stay with one too long, or one part of a sculpt, you come back to later and then you realize that, you know, one part looks amazing but everything else is not even close to it. So recently I've been trying to keep switching and keep moving around the whole sculpt as a whole. Here he's actually missing 2 teeth in his top gums, because I accidentally moved him down when I was moving the subtools around. I end up just going with it because it makes them seem like they fall out. That's why I get the whole idea of making them a little jaggedy. Here I'm just polygrouping out the teeth, as I was talking about previously. Because I did that, I can hide the teeth and just work on the gums separately and make them look like the teeth are inserted into them. And here I can mask everything out and just move the gums separately, or not the gums, but the teeth, and then try to skew them. I find that if you try to make a creature, giving it a nice pronounced brow really adds to its monstrous look. Here I dynamesh the whole thing. Well, I think I used cube remesher, I believe I did, and I just kept I appended the original model I had, cube remeshed the new one, and then projected that onto the original. Because if I dynameshed, I would have like it would fill in the bottom part, and I don't really want to go through that right now. I want it to look like a an actual mesh with the bottom part missing. Or not look like a skin or something. Because it's a higher subdivision now, I'm just going there with the clay brush with fairly low intensity and just building up some extra forms and stuff. At this stage, I'm not worried about building actual mass, just little changes in the planes and adding, going over with the clay tube, well, not the clay tube, but the clay brush really gives it like a flesh feel to it, as opposed to if you went through the whole thing with a clay tubes brush, because it would make it look like a sculpture. Here I just add one eye to work on it. I usually add one when I work on the eye sockets, because if I need to edit the part behind it, I can just work on the other one, and because symmetry's on, it will, mirror it. As opposed to if you had both eyes in, then you couldn't reach behind it, so you'd have to hide that subtool. I just find it faster to do it this way. It's actually speeding up a little bit just because here it's just going to focus a lot more on the small detail. Giving some fullness to the lips here. I'll briefly talk over what was playing in the background, but I can't keep up with how fast it's going. Here I'm trying to just go over the whole sculpt part by part, trying to add some character to them and redefine the, not redefine, but just define where like the flesh would be bending. I didn't add many wrinkles to them. Looking back, I should have added more, to give it more of like a believable sense. But overall, I really liked how it turned out. Especially not having any concept or anything. In the future, like I said, I'd like to have concepts of, I'll just go look through DeviantArt or something and find people's and ask if I can use them. Just so people could see how close I represented the thing I was trying to aim for. I'm just giving a little Adam's apple and make the skin around it deform, because his jaw's open. Here I dynameshed it. I think I just cube meshed it again. It made everything really smooth. I probably shouldn't have done that and just divided the original, because I felt like I lost a lot of the planes and the forms in the face, so I actually go over and fix all that stuff again, which is very time consuming, but at the end I feel like it helped. When I actually cube meshed it there the second time, it actually made a hole in the back between the trapezoids. Well, between the trapezoids, one piece. So I actually had to pinch the hole and then just, you can still see it in the final model because I didn't divide it again. Here's to give the actual eyes the thickness or the fullness of it. I just projected I used the actual base mesh and then just projected with the eyes showing the eye subtools, and which that just pulled it out a little bit to help me create the eye sockets and the eyelids around it. And then later I go in there and then push back the round parts of the face itself so you can see the differences in the subtools. But I find it really helps give the eyes a round shape to them. Here I'm just going over most of it with a very, very low Z intensity of clay tubes, I think with a round alpha and a really high roll on the brush modifier, just to give it some skin texture and work on, again, like the skin quality and change it to the final pass on the forms and everything. But overall, I feel that the mesh turned out really well. I was surprised. It's one of those things where you just you're up late at night and you start working on it, and then at the end you're like, hey, it turned out pretty good. but you must have been about 4 hours later. But it's a good way to spend spring break, I guess. Here I just added a layer quickly and then added a alpha with the standard brush to give it like a skin texture everywhere. And because it was on a different layer, I lowered the intensity of that layer to give it a nice skin pattern. Anyway, here's the final turnaround. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and see you next time.